They say Singapore is a friend of all countries, and everyone is gaining benefits from having a good relationship with this small nation because, as we know, Singapore is a hub for global trade. And for many years, this small country has played a significant role in every country's economy. But what will happen if there is geopolitical tension between other nations, especially between those superpower countries? And what's Singapore going to do if there is war? Which superpower will they support? Can Singapore remain neutral when tensions arise? Well, welcome to grandlinemedia. As a small city-state, Singapore tends to take the world as it is. It does not adopt an idealistic view of what things should be, but seeks to live with its external environment, meaning Singapore doesn't intend to take sides.
Singapore says it does not want to choose sides in the US-China row, nor does it want lines drawn in Southeast Asia.
And in order to do that, Singapore pursues three key approaches: maximizing the number of friendly nations to maintain freedom of action, seeking a balance of power where no major power dominates, and securing an American regional presence that benefits all countries, including China. Well, so far, Singapore really stands by its words and has actually maintained good relations with other countries. So, in other words, Singapore geopolitics can be equated to the word peace. But will it last? Well, let's discuss it. There's no doubt that Singapore's approach really worked, despite the geopolitical competition between the two superpowers, China and the United States. Singapore keeps its relations with each other as good as possible. You see, Singapore has become one of the United States' most reliable partners in the region. Yet, it maintains strong ties with China. It likes when we are going to compare it with humans. Singapore just wants to do business, no personal emotion attached.
Personal, it's business, just business.
Anyway, again, because of Singapore's refusal to take sides, this country gains benefits from both superpowers as well. You see, one of the biggest pillars of the Singapore economy is foreign investment, and both the United States and China are the top investors in this country. And the United States consistently facilitates some US military's access to Singapore's air and naval bases via the 1990 Memorandum of Understanding, or MMOU, which means when it comes to military, policy, strategic, technology, and non-conventional security, the United States is willingly supporting this small country in all aspects. But wait, do you think China will get jealous of the strong bonds between the United States and Singapore? Well, apparently, no. Surprisingly, both the United States and China are helping Singapore's defense because China also signed a so-called Enhanced Agreement on Defense Exchanges and Cooperation, which enabled the People's Liberation Army and the Singapore Armed Forces to train together. And that's the beauty of being a friendly country. Everyone will help you. But what if your friends fight? Who will you support? And that's the risk for Singapore right now. Since Singapore is a friend of almost all nations in the world, they will be in a tight spot when some countries have geopolitical tensions. For example, in the recent Russia-Ukraine war, though Singapore is not directly involved in that war, they are still indirectly affected by it. You see, when the war between Russia and Ukraine arose, oil prices soared above $100 per barrel, driving inflation not only in neighboring countries but worldwide. Of course, Singapore was no exception. And actually, Singapore was heavily affected by it because we all know that Singapore is a global hub, right? And this country uses oil a lot to keep its business running. Well, oil prices are not the only problem. Even though Russia is not one of Singapore's major trading partners, Russia is still one of the major energy suppliers in the world. And most of Russia's energy supplies are imported by China and the European Union, both major trading partners of Singapore. So in other words, Russia can still indirectly put the Singapore economy at risk. Even the Israel and Palestinian conflicts are heavily affecting Singapore's economy. economic fallout resulting from the rise in global protectionism on national security grounds, supply chain and technology disruptions, and global inflationary and recessionary fears are all potential results for Singapore if more countries fight each other. Anyway, let's get back to these two superpowers who keep courting Singapore to be their allies. But according to both China and the US, they don't want Singapore to choose sides. Well, at least that was what they were saying.
So I.
But obviously, whoever gets Singapore's full support will become more powerful. Can you imagine how powerful a superpower country can become if they have Singapore supporting their back? The balance between these two superpower rivalries will now become unproportionate, leading to even more serious geopolitical tension. Luckily, Singapore doesn't want to destroy the equilibrium of the world by not taking sides. According to Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, Southeast Asian nations would not be split between two camps, and that includes his own nation, Singapore. Now, it would be great for a superpower country to get full support from Singapore, but like I said, Singapore taking sides will cause unbalanced geopolitics and surely ruin the equilibrium of relationships in every country, especially these powerful countries. But fortunately, as long as Singapore keeps standing by its words that they will never take sides, then everything will be fine. Well, at least for now.